I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Let go when you show me the judicial warrant.
Where is it?
Sir,
where is the warrant?
I have it in my hand here.
I would like to see the warrant.
Let's go.
New York City Comptroller and mayoral candidate Brad Lander was arrested by ICE agents at an immigration court in Lower Manhattan. The incident happened at 26 Federal Plaza while Lander was escorting an illegal migrant out of the courtroom, reportedly to shield them from being detained by ICE after his hearing. In the video, you can see Landers locking arms with ICE's target. He refuses to let go, saying he wants to see a judicial warrant first. However, ICE does not need a judicial warrant to make an arrest, and even if they did, they wouldn't have to show it to Landers just because he asked for it. You can see in the video that Landers had locked onto the illegal migrant so tightly that he had to be physically pulled away by multiple ICE agents. Border Czar Tom Homan has repeatedly warned that interfering in ICE operations would lead to federal prosecution. DHS said Lander was arrested for, quote, assaulting law enforcement and impeding a federal officer, citing a 413% increase in assaults against ICE agents. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin emphasized that no one is above the law and that such actions undermine officer safety. Just before Obama left office, he sent $1.7 billion in cash to Iran. The money was delivered in actual cash, stacked on pallets and flown into the country. It happened in January 2016 when Obama authorized the transfer of the money to the nation known for sponsoring terrorism. The funds were allegedly part of a long-standing financial obligation stemming from a pre-1979 agreement. Prior to the Iranian Revolution, the United States had committed to supplying Iran with military equipment. However, following the revolution, the transaction was abandoned, leaving Iran to claim reimbursement for the $400 million initially paid. With the accrued interest, this amount spiked to $1.7 billion. The Obama administration decided to resolve the debt. On January 17th of 2016, an aircraft arrived in Iran carrying $400 million in cash loaded onto pallets. The remaining balance of the $1.7 billion was delivered in subsequent shipments. Now, as Israel continues its attacks on Iranian nuclear and military sites, President Donald Trump is deciding how involved the United States will become in this war, many pointing straight back to Obama as the reason Iran had the funding to continue paying for terror and start building up their nuclear programs. The CIA's How to Start a Riot guide details how to hire professional criminals and agitators to pit ethnic minorities against government, then trigger riots of 10,000 people with just 100 agitators. A 1983 CIA riot guide instructed agitators to, quote, create a martyr for the cause by leading demonstrators into a confrontation with authorities to provoke riots or shootings. It's a CIA document titled Psychological Operations in Guerrilla Warfare. The 70-page manual was designed to guide the Contras, a CIA-backed group, in their efforts to destabilize Nicaragua's government during the 1980s. It focused on psychological operations, aka Psyops, to build political support through propaganda, intimidation, and violence, aiming to weaken the regime and rally public support. The document was declassified in 2017, but parts were made public earlier. However, many are now talking about it again, saying it's being used in the Los Angeles riots. The manual explicitly instructs operatives to manipulate demonstrations to, quote, provoke riots or shootings, which lead to the killing of one or more persons who will be seen as the martyrs. This situation should be taken advantage of immediately against the government to create even bigger conflicts, end quote. The goal is to generate public outrage and escalate violence by portraying the government as oppressive. The document outlines using agitators to infiltrate groups like labor unions, student organizations, or ethnic minorities to steer protests toward violence. The manual advocates for the, quote, selective use of armed force for Psyop effect, targeting figures like judges, public officials, or tax collectors to create fear and undermine government authority, which brings people to point out the recent targeted murder of a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband, along with the shooting of a state senator and his wife, both Democrats. It suggests recruiting established citizens like doctors, lawyers, teachers as social crusaders in seemingly innocuous movements to lend legitimacy to the cause, while also hiring professional criminals to escalate protests into riots. 8 employees for the DMV were arrested for selling driver's license to more than 1,000 illegal migrants without making them go through testing, training, or vetting in what authorities are calling a major driver's license fraud scheme. They accepted cash payments to bypass the mandatory requirements such as written tests, skills tests, and proof of residency or legal presence. The more than 1,000 non-domiciled CDL'S were allegedly sold from a single DMV office in Florida. A non-domiciled CDL is a commercial driver's license issued by a state to individuals not domiciled in that state, meaning people who do not have their primary legal residence or permanent home in the state. So, illegal migrants who don't even live in the state of Florida were being issued CDLs without having to go through any required testing. In this case, the licenses were allegedly issued to illegal migrants without verifying eligibility, legal presence, or driving competency. This violates federal and Florida state requirements, which mandate proof of residency for first-time CDL applicants. American Truckers United sent out a warning about this very issue 4 months ago, alleging that Florida was one of 10 states, including California, Illinois, New York, Texas, and Pennsylvania, that are flooding the trucking industry with illegal foreign labor. They asserted that the scheme is part of a broader nationwide problem, with DMVs in multiple states issuing CDLs to illegal migrants en masse, potentially to undercut American truckers by providing cheaper labor. Many are now pointing to an incident in March of this year where 37-year-old Solomon Araya crashed his semi-truck into 17 vehicles in Austin, Texas. Araya's tractor-trailer that was carrying goods for Amazon failed to slow down. 5 people were killed at the scene, including a child and an infant. 11 others were injured and taken to local hospitals. Araya was arrested by the Austin Police Department. He was initially issued a $1.2 million bond, but it was reduced to $7,000. Araya bonded out with conditions including GPS monitoring, random drug tests, and a ban on driving commercial vehicles. The truck was registered to ZBN Transport, LLC, a Dallas-based for-hire carrier contracted by Amazon. ZBN stated Araya passed background checks and had been with the company for 4 months. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo.